Welcome, everyone. This is Jim Sporer with ISSIP, the International Society of Service Innovation Professionals. And as many of you know, we have a relationship with Business Expert Press for books that we promote in our ISSIP community. And it's my pleasure today to introduce one of our new authors, Yaron Flint, who has an amazing new book that I really enjoyed called Innovating Business Development. And Yaron, we'd love to just learn a little bit more about you and why you wrote this book. Could you tell us a little bit?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you very much. And I really appreciate the fact that you enjoyed the book and all the feedback that you gave me. A little bit about myself. My name is Yaron Flint, and I started from a financial background. I have a very, very interesting, I would say, career path. Then somewhere in the middle of my career, I worked for companies like Deloitte, one of the richest guys in the world, traveling all around the world looking for lucrative opportunities for him. Best job for a bachelor ever, but that's where it ends. A few private equities, VCs. The last one was a very large private equity fund based out of China, handling $250 billion asset under management. And somewhere in the middle of my career, I decided to become more operational. So I joined one of the biggest automotive conglomerates here in where I resident, and started really looking at the new innovation front in the automotive. So you could say auto tech. That was back in 2010. And what I found out is that there's a huge gap between startups and their new ideas and the willingness to adopt new and exciting technologies from OEMs and tier ones, but no one really knows how to do that in a proper way and to integrate it. So I decided to take that in, more seriously, and I joined Aptiv to lead their operations here in my country. And after that, I joined Continental. So two tier ones were on the front of technology in automotive. And what I was very surprised to find is that they don't have a guidebook of how to do that. So I joined Continental, a German company, and I said, show me the guidebook of how do you look for technologies, evaluate them, and onboard them. And they said, we don't have a guidebook. It's experience, trial and error. And I said, this is very odd. And I started looking around, and I found out that many companies have the same thing. And I said, this is very strange. If no one wrote a book about this, I should. and I took this challenge upon myself and really wrote something. And what really differentiates this book from other books about innovation, as you might know, Jim, is a lot of the books are very high level or
Yeah.
very academic. They tell you why is this important, how you should do it. The good ones might share with you some, stories and companies who've done it successfully or failed, but no one really tells you why or how to do it. Or if you want to start tomorrow, what are the actions you should take? What are the things you need to avoid?
Yeah.
And I said, this is something that I really need to do, not only for people who are coming later into the game, but people like myself who have a lot of experience and are doing this from, I would say, gut feeling and trial and error across the years. There must be a structured format to do it more professionally, more efficiently, and to avoid errors along the way.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the intention.
Yeah, I think, mother is the necessity is the mother of invention, and you saw this need and you filled it, and your writing style is very, very good. It's really a clear writing style, but like you say, it's coming from a practitioner perspective, so it's very relatable. I found it very relatable, having worked at IBM and seen lots of business transformation up close. It was very relatable. But could you tell us a little bit more how you organized it, trying to help other people understand the important message that you have in this book?
Sure. So like I said, I try to avoid overly academic format, which means I didn't want to really give you a lot of use cases and go into why they succeeded and why they failed, but really to share my experience and what works and what doesn't. And what is interesting about myself, apart from the fact that I have both financial and operational experience, I've done this cross-culture, cross sectors. I've been working in automotive industry 4.0, smart materials, construction tech, and agri-tech. So that provided me a very, very nice overview of what works across sectors and across cultures. And this is what I kind of try to distillate it in my book. So I try to build it as a story, something that you can take on a flight and finish before you land. That was the intention, to do it very short, brief, that someone can carry around, and really give you not an actionable book, but a guidebook that can make you think, am I doing things right? Should I do things in a different way? And really, provide you the time and necessity to sit down and structure what are you working on. So that's kind of the book. I start from a chapter of talking about business development and innovation. The hypothesis behind this is that innovation might not have a structured approach, but business development has. And some people might not know this because they're using salespeople as business development and kind of moving them around. But there is a structured approach to business development. And business development is the next phase of an innovation idea. You take an innovative idea and you find a way to incorporate it into your company, which is basically a business development methodology. So by adopting business development best practice, you can increase the chances of incorporating an innovative idea from the external world. So I talk a little bit about that, then talk a little bit about the business development and the methodology behind that, focusing on very, very cornerstones of business development, like long-term value, customer relationship, market opportunities and evaluation, partnerships, collaborations. And I even kind of like added how to build and maintain a network, which I think is very, very interesting. Then I talk about the company's journey towards innovation. Why should they evolve and learn from the outside world? You've read books like Open Innovation and why do companies change and want to adopt external technologies? So this is kind of like explaining or bringing you into the, I would say, the story in some way, giving you a very nice overview. Then I talk about why companies and large corporations and traditional ones find it so hard to innovate, and what is the DNA that really kind of stops them from really achieving these goals, and how to basically overcome it in some way and build the right process, the right team, and the right mindsets in order to kind of move along. Then I talk a little bit about different paths that companies take towards external innovation and how do they incorporate it into the company. And basically, then I move into the interesting part, which is how do you define a problem that you're looking for in the right way? And this is a huge problem. Not a lot of companies know that or realize that they're not defining the right problem and they're looking for different things. It's like Henry Ford said, if I asked my customers what are they looking for, they would say faster roses. So really defining what are you looking for here? How do you scout for the right technology? And the most important thing, how do you onboard it in a proper and structural format? And this is where a lot of companies fail. They find interesting technologies and they fail post POC. And then, the following chapters is mostly making it count, what is important to make it happen, and how to overcome barriers and what mistakes to steer clear of. But that's kind of the whole book. And I think it's looking at the entire book from cover to cover, it really is supposed to give you a nice guidebook to do that.
Yeah, it is a very nice guidebook on a very important topic, Yaron, and thank you for sharing the overview. As a first-time author, what was your experience like? Could you share that? Because I think a lot of people in the ISSIP community who haven't written a book are wondering how would this experience be? Could you share some of your thoughts on that?
First of all, my recommendation, if you want to write a book, write it. Basically, if you want to share something with the world, you should. The only question now is how do you do that? Amazon has made it very, very easy for anyone to write a book. And I didn't want to follow that path. Anyone can write a book. I wanted to write a book. I wanted people to challenge me, like yourself, right? And ask me the tough questions and see if I'm really on the right path and I'm giving something valuable to the world. And people will enjoy it. And what I found out along the process is that a lot of executives, for example, which I didn't specifically aim to begin with, found this book very useful. So I started moving it around and adapting it. And these kind of questions and challengements really made me focus more and sharpen certain points that were unclear or needed elaboration. So I think it was a very tedious process, but very, very fun and fulfilling. And it allowed me to really focus and transfer the message in a much more clear and fun way.
Great, great. Yeah, I very much agree. If you've got a book in mind, write it and start with uh, start with the table of contents. Start with the 12 or 8 or 10 or however many chapters. Hone that a little bit. And then I agree. I think that one of the good things that we do in the ISSIP community, I'm the collection editor along with Haluk Demirkan, we can tell right away whether the author has you know filled the sack with good content, and then it's really about okay, so how do we make this better? And I think we are a very supportive community. It's interesting, a lot of people, Yaron, you might like to know, who it's their first book, they're saying maybe I could read somebody else's book and provide some comments, and I think that helps too. So if you want to write a book, you're not sure, maybe volunteer to look at some. But I think this topic of innovating business development, when I read it, it really just hit the spot. It felt like this is the time for this book, Yaron. So thank you so much for writing it. Thanks for being part of Business Expert Press. Thanks for sharing it with the ISIP community. Any last words before we wrap up this short interview?
Thanks for reading it. And I appreciate all the others that would read it and benefit it. And please feel free to engage. I open a newsletter in my LinkedIn that will cover topics and will address topics of the book in a more, I would say, in a more deep format. And of course, you can engage offline and we can have a discussion, conversation, consultancy, whatever you want to do with it.
Great. On that note, I'll just say I'll make sure I put into the YouTube metadata. There'll be a link to your LinkedIn. There'll be a link to the book, of course, and a link to your newsletter so that people who want to continue the discussion with you will have a way to follow up. So with that, thank you again, Yaron. Thanks everyone for listening, and I'll stop the recording. Um,
Thank you.